team from the Digit B1, and we are responsible for boosting innovation inside the Commission. So we have like several ways how to boost innovation. First, we introduce light governance, that is simplifying the launch innovative proof of concept and prototypes. That is something internally for like creating innovation without having lengthy governance process. We also created the digital innovation dashboard that centralized overview of all innovative initiatives carried in the Commission itself. Then we also offer like physical labs and different trainings and tools, such as like digital innovation toolkit to boost innovation and provide some guidance on how to use different tools, artifacts, canvas in the process of creating digital innovations. And then we also, our objective is to create a community of innovators, and so we have like different virtual events like this one, and also in-person events to boost like knowledge sharing and sharing of best practices, etc. So just briefly before we start, this is our agenda. So after me, like OECD and EC public sector colleagues will continue the session, and at the end we will have some Q&A, so you will be able to ask some questions. We would appreciate if you can ask the questions via chat, you know, if you have some ideas during the conversation, and then we will open the Q&A session. And then also at the end, we will just have some more introductions about the future events. So I would like just to give the floor to Bruno to start with the presentation. Thank you very much. Bruno,
first of all, thank you so much, Ivana. Thank you so much to the colleagues of the Digital Innovation Lab. I really want to start by thanking them. I think it's an exceptional initiative, not just to give to all of us a contact point to discuss digital innovation in a structured way, but also because, as you can see now, it's a meeting point for all of us that are working across different organizations in different countries on similar topics. So we can really feel the community today. So thank you for the opportunity to join this iTalk. And this is especially important because today I will be in a tandem with Stefanos and Eleonora, whose work I know, I will say, very well. We have been meeting a couple of times in other capacities, and I really like to partner in this session with them. And last but definitively not least, thank you all for joining today. It's we know that we have very busy agendas at this time of the year, so we really appreciate that you are making the time to join us. So my name is Bruno Monteiro. I'm policy analyst at the OECD. For today, we are coming with a toolkit, the OECD Innovation Playbook, but I want to start pointing to a couple of caveats regarding my presentation. The first of them is, of course, I will be interested in sharing the product, the tool with you, so you can reuse, apply it, come up with ideas, with suggestions. But I also want to use this occasion that we are in a safe space to kind of debunk the process of production of the tool. We know that tools are not magical solutions, and they are not meant to be universally applied. They need to be adapted. They can be adjusted for different purposes. And I thought that sharing with you the process of co-creation and experimentation that led to the toolkit could be also interesting to raise your questions, but also to maybe help you in addressing similar needs. The second caveat I want to mention is that a toolkit is as good as it is its application. A toolkit that is not used is not a good toolkit, even if in theory it's the most sophisticated piece of work you can find, in particular if we go to a very shiny format. So what I want to highlight is that as important as the toolkit is the community that developed the toolkit, that continues to use the toolkit, and as you will see, continues to feed new iterations of the tool. And with these two caveats in mind, I will start sharing my screen. I will tell you, as I said, a little bit about the product, but also a little bit about the process that led to the creation of this tool. A great way for me to start with is by starting with a question. So you are probably already used to use similar tools like this one. So you can use your mobile phone, or you can simply go to the link I just shared in the chat. My question for you will be, what is the most common challenge you have been struggling with at the practical level to introduce, to adapt, or to scale up innovation in your organization? And you will find a list of 5 key challenges. You will see how we come up with them. And let us know if you can rank them in accordance with your own situation. There is no right answer. So it's just for us to take the temperature in the room for now. I will be starting. You are probably now able to do it yourself. I will give you just a minute. I will answer myself. Five big areas. Don't be too picky, because they are very generic areas. It's just us for us to get a sense of where the pain points are concentrated in your organization. In the top, the biggest problem, just to clarity. And if you stay with me, we already start seeing that we have some answers. So the most frequent combinations are the ones that put at the top lack of support at the leadership, and also difficulties in connecting across the ecosystem. That means a problem related with, if you want, the top-down approach, and the other one more probably with horizontal connections that go beyond our own organization. Well, why I started by asking you this? Because these 5 challenges were precisely the challenges that the OECD has identified that were more common, more deeply infiltrated in public administrations across the world, and they were the 5 areas where governments were struggling more to address innovation efforts. And from that work that was developed with many countries, as you can see, 43 countries, we developed the OECD Declaration on Public Sector Innovation. It's a legal instrument that exists to support governments in addressing precisely these most common, more implanted issues in public sector innovation. The first principle that was detected is the importance of precisely embrace and enhance innovation within the public sector by bringing in high-level support. And you can find that kind of high-level support from this French example on this innovation fund. It's a fund that exists precisely to support public organizations to address emerging challenges and receive funding to develop an innovative solution for that challenge based on the anticipated savings and optimization benefits. So based on that calculation of the potential benefits coming from an innovation, public organizations receive a supplementary funding precisely to build this innovative challenge. So encouraging and recognizing innovation, and we see this happening across the world with, for instance, very common awards. It's extremely important. It gives visibility. It helps to legitimize innovation, but also to highlight good practices and openness to uncertainty. So this openness is, I think it cannot be, and its role, its importance cannot be underplayed in a context where we still operate in many governments often with risk-averse cultures or rigid procedures. A second principle, it's about the encouragement and the capacities that public servants have to innovate or not. And we see that supporting our officials to have an opportunity to bring their ideas into a concrete space where they can be tested and they can at least learn from that experience is extremely important. And I think one interesting example, for instance, is the example that a couple of years ago the Portuguese government put in place, where they created something called the right to challenge, where there was a very clear, transparent, stabilized procedure where any public official could make a proposal to improve a specific procedure, to simplify it, to make it more effective, for instance. And based on that request, after duly evaluation, based on that request, if considered relevant, there was opportunity to run a 6-month experimental process, to run it in an alternative way, in a kind of sandbox, and at the end to see if it proves more efficient, if it proves more beneficial or not, to learn from it in any case, even if it fails to address the best expectations, and if it works, to try to scale up that experience, for instance. A third principle that, as we could see in the WCLAP, is something also concerning your organizations. It's about the importance of cultivating new partnerships and involving different voices. It is extremely important that we can go, I will say, outside our offices when we think about public sector innovation. It's important, of course, to start with the needs, expectations of the users themselves. But even if we situate ourselves at the level of the organizational dialogues, there is plenty of areas to explore. And for instance, in Estonia, this program Accelerate Estonia, an initiative that I'm pretty sure Stefanos can tell you way a lot more about. This accelerator is precisely based on partnerships between governments, startups, civil society organizations, academia, and they exist to build precisely this, to weaving together these connections across the ecosystem to address relevant societal challenges. A fourth principle that is contained in the declaration, it's about the importance of exploring, iterating, testing solutions before implementing them. We know that we are operating under a huge pressure. We need to deliver quickly. We need to address constantly changing challenges. We need to execute budgets. We are operating under a very pressing environment in the public administration. But that do not mean we cannot do better. And one way of doing that is precisely to integrate knowledge, to learning, keeping projects open in a way that we can improve them, and we are not locked in on definitive solutions, for instance. Impact Canada is precisely one of those programs that I think support the adoption of innovative solutions. I will share later some connections. I'm very much aware of time during my presentation. And finally, the fifth principle of the declaration is to diffuse lessons and share practices. It is not enough for us to learn about something if we do not share it with others that are experiencing similar challenges, or if different challenges, they can at least learn from our approaches. I got sometimes the impression that that phrase, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, is more often said than done. And what happens in many cases is that we are reinventing the wheel constantly. And one of the reasons why we are doing that is that we are not connecting enough these processes across borders, be it administrative borders, be it national borders. And to do a good, I would say, constant improvement, a constant exploration of better solutions, measuring and evaluating what we are doing is critical. It's absolutely important. And I'm not saying that we should go with a specific approach, a cost-based approach, or an economic calculus approach. It's possible to combine with other dimensions. What it is really important is that we keep monitoring our experiences and we keep learning from this. So these are the 5 principles that, as we see, are very much based on the needs of governments, but also on the good practices of governments. These are the 5 principles that inform the OECD Declaration on public sector innovation. However, the fact that we have a declaration does not mean that we have the possibility of embedding these principles on their everyday life, on our workplaces. And it was precisely because of that reason that we identified there is often a gap between principles, ideas, and users, concrete applications, that we created the Innovation Playbook. The whole idea behind the Innovation Playbook was precisely to bridge the gap, what is often designated as impact gap, between good ideas, good intentions, inspiring principles, and concrete practices in specific contexts. So to do that, we team up with 12 countries, very different countries, from Australia to Finland, from Belgium to Denmark, very different contexts. And together with this task force of countries, we started with an initial mock-up of what these countries told us were good actions to take to implement these 5 principles. In a second iteration, in the second mock-up, where we have a meeting with different countries, with more people beyond these 12 countries. The initial number of actions was enlarged, so other countries, other contexts came up with more ideas, other proven practices they have in their context. We also received the suggestion that any good ideas need to have good tools associated with it, so we started including some good tools as well. And other countries suggested us to put cases, not just for us to get inspiration from, but also to enable you to get in contact with and find, I would say, a peer or a partner to spare a little bit while thinking about your own problem. And in the end, the final version, after we do the testing sessions, and we have done some testing sessions with countries, we have an even bigger number of actions, tools, and cases. So what I want to share with you is that from a shared challenge to bridge the gap between principles and actions, we end up bringing on board countries that help us not just making the contents richer, but also shaping the very format of the tool we develop. So we really want to adopt these 5 guidelines that for the countries were critical. The first one is that we need to build something, whatever format it has, that is accessible. We cannot have a toolkit that has so many preconditions to access the toolkit that it ends up creating a kind of short circuit where are always the same using the most interesting tools. So we spend a lot of time reviewing the language of the toolkit, for instance. It was revised by many, many different people from many different countries. Some of them don't like, for instance, long sentences. Others like way more than that we avoid some lingo that is very, I would say, commonly used among the innovators, but not so common among other communities. So we spend a lot of time making it as accessible as possible. Countries also want something that is actionable. That's the importance for them to build, on concrete actions they have actually used. And the actions you find in the playbook are actions that came from, this crowdsourcing way of operating. User centricity is also important. We really want this to be something people can use based on their challenges. So if you take a look at the toolkit, and I will share in a minute the links, you will see that the first question you are asked is, what is your challenge? So we don't start with the principles. We start with the challenges that users have. It should be something based on co-creation and experimentation. So we run a lot of working sessions with these 12 countries. We tested this on the ground with public officials from many of these countries that were part of the task force. And finally, countries told us, let's not add yet another toolkit to the pile of toolkits we have. So if you take a look in this playbook, you will find plenty of references to many other very good resources that are already around. So we were very much concerned in creating these connections with relevant partners, relevant resources that are already out there, and point people to use those tools as well. Some of them, for instance, from the European Commission. So this was very important, that this could be a kind of entry point, not just for the toolkit or the playbook in itself, but for other resources and other trusted partners. The toolkit is based on this very simple journey. What are the challenges you want to address? After you do this, you are guided to a place where you have the chance of assessing where do you stand right now. Because even if you want to solve a specific challenge, you may have things that you are already doing very well. So it is really, really important to focus on the areas where you can really improve or gain some edge by using this toolkit. This was also important to do this kind of self-assessment of your conditions, because we want to make sure that not just that you have done already a lot of work, and we want to acknowledge that, but also because we want to make sure that you don't take the toolkit to be a magical solution. A toolkit is not solving all the problems. It's helping to put you on a journey to address some of those problems. And finally, the toolkit will help you to get a sense of what can you do to improve your situation. And the first version of the Innovation Playbook, it's a PDF. It starts something like that. You identify what is your challenge. In this case, for instance, how can we better understand and measure the value and the impact of innovation? And after you click on this, you are guided to understand and to assess where you are. So we offer you, in this case, 7 dimensions, and you will tell us exactly where you really need to improve. In this case, for instance, let's imagine that we are looking for ways to improve the benefits of demonstrating and sharing learnings. And as soon as you click in each of these areas of improvement, you are guided to a specific section with concrete actions coming from different governments, from case studies, and from other toolkits. Well, the most interesting part, I will say, is that we saw people taking over the toolkit. They were hacking the toolkit, if you want. So for instance, some people asked us to do cross-border sessions between different countries. So instead of using this for specific organizations, as we planned to do together with the countries, people want to join together organizations from different countries and use this opportunity to have a meaningful conversation. Some people brought it on the in-person format. It was initially thought as a PDF, but a lot of countries were asking us to apply the PDF, so to speak, into a workshop format. So we developed the workshop format, like the one we applied during the Simplification Day in Luxembourg. Or for instance, translating the toolkit. The toolkit was in a Creative Commons format, so people could take over it, translate it, and add it in different languages. Some useful learnings I want to share with you. Well, one important thing, and this is something that I'm pretty sure many of you already experience, is this, I will call it playbook blues. That is, as soon as you launch the toolkit or the playbook, you got the feeling that you are creating something that has already a time tag that in a couple of months risks to be already outdated, right? You don't have resources to do the maintenance. You have a limited capacity yourself to keep updating it. Our suggestion is try to bring the sustainability issues during the creation process. And as you will see, the fact that we started this conversation with different countries was what granted us with the possibility of keeping working on this and ensuring the iterations of this playbook. The second one is that it's very important that you target and you tailor your communications. So communicating is not just launching the playbook. It's also finding the right way to generate appetite or to unlock the pre-existing demand. For instance, one of the things we saw was really important was to create a tutorial video. A tutorial video that in 30 seconds really show what it means to apply the toolkit. Not exactly about the contents of the toolkit, but what it really means to use it. A third point that is really, really important is to monitor and assess the product you are creating. Now, there are very easy ways now to do that. That's not just important for you to report to your management about how far have you been in spreading and helping others addressing their challenges using your tools, but it is also important for you to identify opportunities of improvement. For instance, many of the good ideas we used for the digital version of the playbook that we created after this first phase have been originated by users that relied on the communication channel we created specifically for people to provide us with feedback. So when we started iterating this PDF version, we started doing that based on learnings coming from the ground. And I can tell you, this is a great way not just of building a community, but also a great way for keeping your tools top-notch in terms of addressing needs and expectations. And the fourth point, and to repeat myself again, keep expectations realistic. There is no universal toolkit. There is no magical toolkit. Toolkits exist to get entangled in real life processes and being helpful for people to address specific challenges, in our opinion. So before jumping to the second part, to the final part of my participation, allow me to share with you another quick question. I think it's an opportunity for you to tell us what is under your opinion the low-hanging fruit for applying this playbook. So you saw me claiming that the purpose of this playbook is precisely to address workplace challenges at the organizational level. So if the pitch is correct, you should be by now anticipating a possible use. How can you use it? How can you apply it? How do you see it being helpful for your organization? You can again access UCLAP using this code, using the QR code, or again using the link I shared in the chat. I think I can give you a couple of minutes. You can submit as many answers as you want, but one will be already. Okay, great. Thank you so much. As you can see in the word cloud, there are a couple of things that are already popping up. One, it's about structuring complex problems. We know that they do not come as givens. We need to work on problems to make them feasible, understandable. The connection aspect is also something that some of you already highlighted. So thank you so much for this. I hope from here you can see other potential uses for this toolkit. So as I mentioned, so you can download the playbook using this QR code. You can have access to an online whiteboard version in Mural. So we created a kind of online version where you can apply this in your team. Even if you are working remotely, you can use it together. We have also an in-person workshop format, so you can download, print it. We have all the instructions there for you to use. And as I mentioned, there is a lot of work that government teams have done by themselves to translate this playbook to Swedish, Spanish, French, Romanian, Dutch, and Japanese. And what for me is really interesting is that whenever you put a toolkit out there, you should allow the toolkit to gain a life of its own. And for instance, the Japanese version, which I cannot assess how good it is, seems to be very, very helpful in ensuring that the larger community of Japanese public officials could engage with the declaration of the OECD, but also with all these lessons and these experiences from other countries. And just as a final note, in a couple of minutes, I will beg for your patience. At a certain moment, countries pressed us to go digital, to really explore the opportunity of transforming this PDF that, let's be honest, is a PDF with links to become really, really interactive. why have we gone digital? Because we have not gone digital just because we really want to have it digital. The first reason is that users, especially the broader community of users, keep telling us that it is extremely important that the tool we are offering them is interactive, is playful, that they can get a sense of interaction when they are using it, that it is not such as a static page that rebounds their curiosity, but instead something that offers plenty of doors for them to explore, to gain this sense of discovery, of trying by themselves. The second reason is that it makes it easier for us to keep updating the resources and bringing new connections on board. There's a lot of URLs that are constantly being deactivated and need to be replaced. There are constantly new resources being created. So we just need to go there and add a new tool, add a new reference. So we can keep it a living creature, right? So the toolkit don't need to be closed to whatever is happening in 2022 when it was originally shaped, but it can keep updated. The other point a lot of countries ask us to be aware of is that it is important that this toolkit becomes really, really accessible and usable. For instance, usable on mobile. A lot of people are accessing resources using their mobile phones while they're on the metro or wherever. So we really need a format that adjusts for that, right? Which was not the case with the PDF. And finally, a resource that enables users to export the results. That means you have an interaction with the tool, but you need to document that interaction and ideally get it in a format that is shareable, that is usable for you to communicate with others, for instance, with your manager, about the application of the tool. So this time we have plenty of more countries joining the discussion about the digital version, 20 countries. And 7 of them volunteered to be power users. That means they were very much engaged in a very intensive process to create it, update it, test it, use it across all these different countries, from Chile to Spain, from Luxembourg to Brazil. You can have access to the digital version here. You can discuss new features, new functionalities. You can also find something that I am especially proud of, that is these accessibility standards. So I think it's not a very common procedure, but we have run this tool through the accessibility and usability standards that we have at the European level. So we can ensure that all kinds of users can really relate with the tool. We identified plenty of things about structuring information, color codes that we could improve thanks to this. And something that is really, really important for us is that you can, just using one of your normal browser plugins, you can translate this version to any of the available languages. So for instance, at a certain moment, we start discovering people in Indonesia that were using the playbook in Bahasa just by using the plugin. I will invite you to discover the digital version, and very quickly, I will ask you for 1 extra minute to see the playbook live with me. So just for you to get a sense of how what does it take to use this. Just give me a minute. Okay. I hope you are now able. So if you go here and start mentioning that this innovation playbook, this new version of the innovation playbook, was funded through the Horizon Europe program, funded by the European Union. So you can take a look at the explanation of all these resources that we have. But I will invite you to begin your journey if you click here. Please let me know if anything is not working properly. So this is the introduction. We will ask you to tell us what is your big picture problem that you have. This is just a simulation. We will ask kindly the name of your organization if you want to give it, and then a country. Imagine that we are doing this from Argentina. So after doing this, we will ask you about what are your primary challenge areas. right? And you can tell us as many areas as you want. Maybe you just have one area that you are experiencing an issue. Maybe you have more than that. And based on your classification, we will tell you under which principle your problems fall. So for instance, in this case, where I have picked up almost by chance the problem areas, your problems seem to be concentrated under principle 1. That is a principle about the strategic view and the high-level support of innovation. You have also problems under different principles. But let's pick up the principle that has more problems under, because that seems the principle that will bring more benefits for your specific context. If you want to replicate then your journey, you can do that. You just need to return and you can redo again your journey. So we will explain a little bit more about the principle 1. So as you know, these principles are the principles of the declaration. What we want to do here is, of course, close the gap, but also pitch the potential that this declaration has for you. In particular, because in many cases, your government already signed this declaration. So you can rely on this instrument. You can invoke this instrument to put in practice measures to solve the challenge you identified. And then we will kindly ask you to assess your situation on specific areas, in specific capacities. And this will change, of course, depending on the problems you have. For these problems, these are the areas that are more relevant. So for instance, are innovation initiatives being translated into action? Oh yes, this is a success. You put it here in the green. This is something terrible. You put it in the extreme red. If it is something that, for instance, politicians and leaders endorse, you can go for the more greenish area. Otherwise, you can go for the other area. You will tell us, how do you stand in terms of these areas? And based on this assessment, what we will tell you is what are the areas where you really need to intervene based on your classification. And the more reddish areas are the areas where interventions are more needed, where you are really, really struggling to cope with. So you can go and choose the area that you are in a worse situation, so to speak, or you can simply choose the area you want to work in that moment. But let's go for the area you really want to improve, because it's the area that, in accordance with your self-assessment, is the one that is struggling with more issues. Again, we do not claim this to be a clinical analysis. This is a self-assessment. So this is mostly a tool to help you structure your process and run meaningful conversations across your organization. And based on that area that you pick up as the area that needs improvement, we will make you suggestions of actions that other governments have applied. And you will tell us, for each of those actions, what is the potential impact and what is the level of complexity and cost or effort that is associated with it. So for instance, public servants organizations have access to tools and process. This is something that can have a high impact, and it is very, very easy to do. So low level of complexity, because it's really easy to spread tools. For instance, providing visibility and rewards, the impact is very high, but it can be also, imagine, that will take a lot of effort as well. I'm just doing something. I'm just simulating the application so you can see how this works. So you will tell us what are your areas of issues. What are the principles that is more adapted to that? The system can tell you that. We can give you a very short self-assessment results based on this color code. And then, as you know, we can structure the actions that you have selected into a way that you can build a roadmap out of it. So for instance, quick wins are those actions that you selected that have a high potential impact and a low effort to put in practice. So you should start with the quick wins, right? Based on your own assessment. While, for instance, you have other areas that are strategic efforts because they have a potential impact that is very high, but will take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of cost to put in practice. So you probably should not start with this one. You should start preparing these ones use the quick wins to gain some traction, and then with time be in a position to carry out a strategic effort. And then we also give you some clarity about actions that, for instance, will probably have a lot of cost associated with and do not promise a lot of benefits. So these are actions for you to reconsider. So based on this self-assessment, what you can do is you can download the results in a PDF. You can use this PDF to hand it over to everyone that participated in the session, so they have like a document, a testimony of their common joint effort. You can use it, as many government teams told us they have been using it, to address their manager, saying, oh, we have applied this playbook in a session with our colleagues from the same department, from other departments. These are the results we achieved, and we really want to use this to communicate with top management, for instance. Or you can simply use this to do an assessment at a given moment in time, do your effort, and assess again your own situation after 6 months. So you can kind of compare the results. So very quickly, as you could see, there is a lot of improvements that can be done to make these a more rigorous, robust assessment, right? Imagine all the data we can use for the purpose of providing you with a more, I would say, sustained assessment of your situation. Imagine all the possible uses that can be done in making it more fine-grained, more richer in terms of the actions, in terms of the areas we are assessing. There is a lot of things that can be done. We are very much aware of it. We will appreciate if you give us your feedback. We keep collecting the feedback constantly. As you can see in the screen, in all pages, we ask for feedback. It could be an error, it could be an idea, it could be a suggestion. So what we want to say is that this is not a magical solution again. This is not a definitive solution. It is not meant to be magical nor definitive, but it's a platform to help people having a structured conversation about innovation challenges, innovation processes, and innovation outcomes in a very, I will say, processual way. And it is also a way for us to invite people to break the ice. Because something we noticed is that too often innovation is considered to be a matter just for innovation experts. And we have a lot of intelligence collectively shared in the public administration. We have all these living creatures called governments out there, constantly adapting, finding new ways of doing things, struggling with challenges, some of them very old. So we really think if we can implant this tool, other tools in this living creature, we can really provide an interesting add-on. I will stop here. I hope you can keep using the tool, criticizing it, building suggestions. So in some time we can come back with a new version that proves I am already outdated when I'm talking to you now. So something that keeps this movement alive and where you can play an active role. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. I think it was really interesting, and I hope we will have some questions from the participants. But let's now give the floor to our colleagues from GovTech team. So, Stefanos, Eleonora, please take the floor.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Bruno, for the brilliant presentation. So I'll share my screen very briefly. My name is Eleonora. I'm working in DG Digit, the unit for digital government and interoperability, alongside my colleague Stefanos, that will also present in the second half of today. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Yes, see. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm having issues with the tool. Yeah, so today the idea was that Bruno presented the OECD declarations on public sector innovation, and he has already presented some of the principles that underscore also best practices for government innovation. So he has mentioned, for example, openness, share and reuse, the importance of experimentation, for example, with regulatory learning, and creating user-centered public services. So while the OECD provides this very interesting tool, today we wanted to present a bit of the legal foundation of what the Commission is doing to promote interoperability and digital government in Europe, together with a demo of our tool, which is the Public Sector Tech Watch, which in short is an observatory for emerging technologies in Europe. So to begin a bit with the Interoperable Europe Act. This is the legislation that sort of transforms some of these principles mentioned by Bruno previously into a shared European commitment. So we can see it as a living legal foundation for digital government collaboration and interoperability in Europe. So delving a bit deeper into this regulation, it is a regulation that applies to union entities and public sector bodies that regulate, provide, manage, and implement trans-European digital public services. So the focus is really about cross-border interoperability and promoting the cross-border interoperability of these digital public services. The way in which it does it is by establishing some common rules, specific tools, which we will see later, and a governance framework that covers all the different layers of interoperability. So this regulation, which let's say has a bit less hype than the AI Act, but it was entered into force just in April 2024, and it actually provides a very important foundation for building digital government in Europe. So in a very poor words, how can we describe interoperability? It is essentially the ability of different systems, devices, or software to communicate, exchange data, and work together seamlessly. But interoperability is not just about, let's say, this technical dimension. It also includes different layers, which refer indeed to this technical aspects. So, for example, how can we interconnect services and data better? But it also could refer to the legal interoperability. So how can organizations cooperate and operate whilst having different legal frameworks in a collaborative way? This also extends to organizational interoperability. So how can public administrations align their processes to achieve a common level of beneficial goals, but also semantic interoperability. So here is really about the format and the meaning of exchange data and information across Europe. So I briefly wanted to present this in order to delve a bit deeper into how interoperability can support public sector, which is also by improving the service delivery, by creating a single point of access for several public services. It also increases the transparency and accountability of public administrations by tracking and monitoring the processes and outcomes. It enhances the data quality because by, again, not having to reinvent the wheel, some common standards of high-level data exchange are set. And this also facilitates the operation within the public administrations, but especially across public administrations. And ultimately, it also aims and contributes to greater efficiency and cost saving by exactly avoiding duplications and optimizing resources. So to just give a few examples of what this cross-border interoperability could be, it could be, for example, when a city wants to implement traffic management solutions and they're looking for a good example. And so without having to start from scratch, they could look at best practices across Europe and then be able to reuse the same tools. Or, for example, a hospital wants to share the capacities of intensive care beds, for example, with the nearest hospital that is on the other side of the border. And they want to be able to speak the same language, both in terms of legal and technical frameworks. So to delve a bit deeper into what do we do as a unit on interoperability, The regulation has certain measures that are now mandatory in Europe, and it also promotes certain actions that seek to promote interoperability, but also foster the GovTech ecosystem. And this is precisely the scope of our intervention today. And it's to look at how does this regulation support building up this GovTech ecosystem, which can be defined as the cooperation between public and private actors to promote innovation in the public sector. And the regulation does so by enabling the stakeholders from across the EU to contribute to this enhanced cross-border interoperability, and also to the discovery and reusability of the solutions through, for example, the Interoperable Europe community. So there is one community established where all these different actors can come together. And there are also concrete tools through which they can experiment, but also understand what exists in Europe, what is being done in Europe in terms of digital public services. And to make a bit of a more explicit reference to the Act, it is Articles 10 to 12 that really set the mandate, the legal mandate for this GovTech ecosystem and innovation in the public sector. And so the articles speak about promoting GovTech, but also, for example, regulatory experimentation. And this was one of the principles that Bruno mentioned earlier. So there is the interoperability regulatory sandboxes that are established through the Act. So when it comes to GovTech, what are these concrete actions that the European Commission has taken? And as I was mentioning, there are, for example, these interoperable regulatory sandboxes for testing and validating of interoperability solutions. But then we also have a GovTech for All incubator, which is a testing arena to provide the opportunity to administrations to experiment, test, and pilot these solutions. And ultimately, there is this Public Sector Tech Watch, which is a central observatory for citizens, policymakers, and other actors to gain visibility on the use cases of emerging technologies. So what are the uses of GovTech in Europe today? And this includes AI applications, but also blockchain, virtual worlds, and so on. And my colleague Stefanos will present a bit later, more in depth, the Public Sector Tech Watch. So I had prepared these questions for you, but they're very similar to what Bruno has already asked. So I think for the sake of time, I will skip. But it's very good to see that we are aligned on the same, let's say, priority, which is really to understand what are the challenges that administrations face. And this is exactly what our tools try to address. So about the Public Sector Tech Watch, I would leave the floor to my colleague Stefanos. If you want, I can still move the slides.
Yeah, please. I mean, it's better because I will be.
Okay.
So if you can just share, and then I will just take starts when it comes to the demo.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks a lot, Eleonora. Thanks a lot, everyone, and especially to the iLabs for the iTalks organization. And yeah, I'm very glad to be here to proceed with the demo in a few moments. Just one small comment. My name is Katoglou, not Katoglou, but you know, these semantics they happen all the time. They happen all the time, and it's a good how to say example that even Interoperable Europe Act and unit does these mistakes. Let's say so. Nothing, you know, no hard feelings. So what is the Public Sector Watch? Already Eleonora mentioned. She explained that it's our observatory, that now we have more than 1,000 cases, if not mistaken. We will see also in a while in the demo of AI and more cases in general. When it comes to innovation in public administrations, this entails solutions and innovation that comes directly from the public administrations, but also includes innovation that is developed in collaboration with private sector. So it's also the GovTech part. And thanks a lot to Bruno for the pass that he gave to me with the accelerator in Estonia. So I can just let's say, present also briefly the EU GovTech, which is a very relevant and quite connected application, quite connected initiative that we have under the Interoperable Europe portal. For whom? The public sector tech watch, I would say it's for everyone. I mean, if you have interest in innovation, so mainly public administrations that they want to explore what is there in other public administrations. Public administrations, of course, that they want also to promote what they have and share with others. So they share the word, so other public administrations, they are aware. And they can check against, what's there before innovating. And it's something that we're working also to further update by introducing a regulatory sandbox initiative in this journey. So if there is a solution that someone has, let's say, developed, we explore through our database. If not, and if we have an idea, then we bring up together, I mean, we join forces also with other public administrations, and we might, establish a regulatory sandbox. So before developing something, also collecting requirements and putting, let's say, the testing facility in motion for testing against regulation on the specific, let's say, field of innovation. But this is something to come. Why? Of course, it's something. It's a community that we share innovation, we share knowledge, we share relative news, we share relative events, we share and we develop reports and studies relevant to our activities, and also we share opportunities on funding, for example, and also another opportunity that it's also there at the right side of the slide. It's compete to the best case award. Already we are on the second version that the application has it's closed. It's closed actually last month, beginning of this. After it was open since midsummer, I would say, and we gave the opportunity to public administrations and also private sector that they applied on of the public administration a case to participate in this best case award last year. If we go to the next slide, then I can complement on my presentation. Okay, I will present then the evaluation criteria quite briefly, and then I will just jump into the previous version of the best case award and what's going on with this version. So the evaluation criteria, they are evolving based on the experiences and the history of the event. So after the first version, we managed, or at least we concluded, to updating, let's say, our criteria. What is important for us is the impact that and the creation of public value. Of course, innovation and technology, how innovative is the technology that we use, it's something that we take into consideration when assessing such solutions. So if there is, let's say, I would give a very simple example. It could be that, 3, 4, 5 public administrations, they come up with, I don't know, an assistant, a virtual assistant, like, I don't know, like, I'm on the website of provision of public service, and then there's a virtual assistant that, okay, it's something innovative, but and also it could be something scalable, but it's something that we see most of the times. I don't say that it's bad, but also based on the rarity of the solution and, of course, the impact and the public value creation, we also take into consideration how innovative is the technology. Then, of course, interoperability is one of the criteria. Openness and transparency on how this application, this solution uses your data, how this application takes decision, and what is the process. So if there is transparency on this, it's also something that we put emphasis on. Scalability, of course, and reusability is something that we work hard on. It's something that we aim in our act and in our initiative. So, okay, let's say it's a pilot. It's nice to have a pilot, but also we are very interested in seeing what is the future plan for this pilot or the full implemented solution. And of course, implementation process, it's something that it's also very important. This implementation process, for example, includes the participation of citizens and public administrations in the creation of such solutions. So it's something that we take into, for example, if it's an initiative that takes into consideration the opinion and the proposals of the citizens and the users before and while designing such process. Eleonora, if you go to the next one, I think it's the last before the demo. We'll see. So yeah, just to go back to the awards. Last year, it was the first version of the Public Sector Tech Watch Best Case Award. We received 32 submissions last year, 26 of them on AI, and we had actually 4 awardees and 2 honorable mentions. The awardees, they were in this categories that we identified: government to government and government to business. So it was position first and position second for each category. These 4 ones, as you can see, they were with other 2 honorable mentions awarded last year in Brussels. This year, the event for 2025 takes place in Copenhagen during the CEMIC 2025 conference, and you are most than welcome in the conference. You can just access the CEMIC 2025 webpage and see how this can be done. But unfortunately, if you wanted to submit your case to participate in the Best Case Award, this is closed for now. But if you are interested to further submit something, feel free. We are always and constantly open for new suggestions, and then we assess whether such solution can be there, and also we help you to further, let's say, develop your application. I think the next is the last one. If you can go, Eleonora. Yes. So now I will take charge, let's say, of sharing my screen just to go to the demo. And voila. First of all, I would like also, before I start the demo, to thank OECD and Bruno for the presentation. I just also had I played with the playbook. It's something very nice. It's something that actually helps public administrations and other actors to further, let's say, frame their interest and get more tailored consulting help. So the public sector goods, as you can see, the main page actually provides some information on what it is. What is our collaborative ecosystem? So you can see here that we also have this connection with GovTech, EU GovTech, and this is the link that, thanks to Bruno, I will show you something about the accelerator in Estonia. And scrolling down, actually we have kind of a small, let's say, snapshot of what we have here in the tabs. And it's the case viewer. We have the generative AI relative documentation that we scan through public administrations around Europe, and we upload in our system, so people, they can have an overview of what's going on around such strategies or guidelines in Europe. Then we have our knowledge center, that it's more about studies and reports relevant to our work, and also the ones that we publish in collaboration with the JRC. This is the scientific department of the Commission. Also, we have something very interesting. It's the success stories and experts' opinions. So we further, on use cases that we collect through the public sector TechWatch case viewer, we further elaborate on the cases. So we create success stories, and also we give the opportunity, that we give the floor to experts to share the views on specific subjects, for example, innovation hubs, for example, on collaboration in the GovTech ecosystem, or innovation and what are the challenges, let's say, that public administrations they face when it comes to innovation, that could entail, let's say, funding, that could entail collaboration with private sector, and of course that could entail, among others, the attitudinal, let's say, habit that the unfortunately, and I'm kidding with this, unfortunately, but it's also something that we have taken into consideration, that changes happen in a very, let's say, slow and also hasty way, or how to say. I will just focus on the unfortunately that hierarchy is there. It's there. It's good that they're there, but of course they create obstacles, and it's also it's a good also quality check that it takes some more time to proceed with the innovation. Then we have news and events. As I said, submit your case too. So since the 2025 Best Case Awards submission is closed, this tool is the only way, let's say, for public administrations to submit their cases and their solutions from now on until the next version of the awards. Here we have also an informative video that actually does what I'm gonna do, like a demo of what we provide in our website. But of course, you know, a website, it's a live document, I would say. So some tabs, they have been updated, and also in the future, something like this will happen. I'm pretty sure. It's something that it's called evolution, of course. And when it comes to innovation, evolution is quite fast, and we cannot just stay static in what we have here. So now I will just go page by page very quickly, just to show you how it works for us. So the cases we have here, you can just click and have a view in the cases. It's Power BI interface that you can, as you can see, we have more than 2,000 cases. That includes AI also. Before I mentioned that we have more than 1,000 cases specifically on AI. So you can check the cases by their name, by country, administration level, like national, local, or regional, and across country. Function of the government. So it's about education, health, housing, social protection, etc. Technology, as we mentioned. So it's not only AI. We also have AR, VR, we have 5G, we have blockchain, of course, and others, quantum computing as well. Then we focus more on AI because it's the most popular solution, the most popular technology that public administrations work. So we go further in deep learning, generative AI, etc. And as you can see, there is also application type that it's quite huge. You can just have access through our drop-down menu to see what is the application level of the solution, and also the status. As I mentioned before, pilot, it's one of the statuses that we have. And pilots, even though the impact is very difficult to measure at the moment, pilots, for me at least, personally, it's something that we should invest. And what we do to further, let's say, engage and encourage people to pilot and experiment solutions is that we provide some facilities like the GovTech for All incubator, that it's a funding measure under the Digital Euro program, that we give the opportunity to public administrations to experiment on specific solutions with the collaboration of private companies. So I will just jump directly to the next tab. As I mentioned, we have stories and we have experts' voices. Stories, as I mentioned, is more elaboration on what we have as use cases, and we discuss either after a proposal from the public administration or after our incentive to reach out to some cases that we find interesting. Of course, other cases that can be interesting. It's not that we are the wiser, persons or people like we decide this is the more interesting story. No, it's more like, we have 2,000 stories, so we just check and we come up with some proposals. And then we also have the expert voices. Already we have 5 of them, and in the pipeline, I think we have 4 to come. And we identify people that they are leaders in their industry, in their work. So, for example, until now we had most of them actually they are on GovTech, I have to say. So Sofia, Chiara, Zara, and Yannick, they dealt with GovTech stories. Ibrahim is investor, capital investor, so we can see also different stories around. And of course, Damir, he is coming from private and sector and public sector collaboration with the use of AI solutions. So you are more than welcome to access these stories and have your say also under comments, because we also provide this opportunity to our users. As I said, if you go here to the best case award, you can see the criteria that we used for this year awards, and you can access also last year's winners and awardees. So you can have the full access to the 4 winners, and also you can just scroll here to have a look to all the submitted cases. So we provide transparency on what was submitted and also who is the winner of each category. As I mentioned, we have also this generative AI for public administrations database, and it's nice through this map that we have here. You can just go and check which country has what, and also you can just have also focus on the technology. Of course, the name is generative AI. We are focusing on this, but we understand that some guidelines that were provided and they were developed, or documentation was developed a bit earlier, and it's on artificial intelligence only. The type here, as you can see, it's guidelines, policy, rule or regulation, and rules of procedure or protocol. Then we have the knowledge center. As I mentioned, it's reports that we publish. There will be, until now, we were publishing a yearly report on public sector. This year it will not be the case. We found out that it's better that, let's say, put focus on our content than actually listing, a snapshot of our database at a specific point in year and then create a report based on this. I think, and we think actually that it's better that people, they can have this freedom to download our database, because also you can do this through cases. You can download the database and also submit here your case, and then you can do your analysis yourself. Then we have news and events. Everything that we publish is here. We pin some news and events, and also you can find events that they're not only organized by us, but also we find them interesting in the main and the big picture of GovTech and public sector tech. Okay, this tab also, we are in the works to update our website. This tab will be removed, but because we already included here, and I will just be very briefly because we are not. I was not planning to present the EU GovTech, but I just take the opportunity from Bruno that he presented the accelerator in Estonia, just to say that such accelerator, it's already recorded in our database of EU GovTech, because it's this entity that works as, you know, the middleman and helps both public administration and private companies to innovate. And as you can see, we go to Estonia, we have here the Accelerate Estonia initiative. So it's an open call also for you if you have initiatives that they are on GovTech, or if you have cases that they are innovation in public administration, please feel free to contact us or submit directly these cases if it's on GovTech by contacting us. I think I can find this information here on GovTech. Sorry for this. Loads. In any case, by contacting us under Public Sector Tech Watch. Okay. As you can see, we have internet problems, connection problems. But in any case, if you check our website, you will find how you can submit your case by yourself, and also there is a contact email that you can also get in contact with us to share your opinion or whatever, like solution, or even if you want to volunteer yourself for an expert's voice. Okay, so here, for example, you can find the link for submitting your initiative on GovTech, or even submit your company, if you're a startup, to be placed on our GovTech catalog. And under the Public Sector Tech Watch, you can do this by submitting your case here, or by contacting us in our functional mailbox. It should be here. Sorry for this late in the connection, but yeah. Just for the sake of time, I would suggest that I close the demo. I don't know if we have other slides, Eleonora. I think there is one more, or you take control of the presentation.
Yes, I can share again.